I don't have to quit my job and move to Bali and become a breathwork teacher. I can work part-time and teach part-time and still have time to do the other stuff. It's just about looking at your own life as an individual and deciding like, what are the building blocks that are going to work for you?
Hey there, welcome or welcome back to the Mischief Movement podcast. I'm Zoe, your guide on this journey to shake up the status quo and design a life that truly makes you feel alive. If you've ever felt disconnected, stuck on autopilot, or trapped in a life that feels more like a treadmill than an adventure, you're in the right place. I know that change can feel scary, so let's turn down the fear and crank up the fierce as we transform your life from the inside out. Whether it's solo episodes packed with actionable advice or interviews with some absolute badass human beings who've dared to defy the norm by living life their way, we're here to inspire, activate, empower, and challenge you each week. My mission is simple: to help you reawaken your rebel spirit, break free from mediocrity, and design a life that's anything but dull. You only get one wild life, so what are you planning to do with yours? If you're ready to stop settling, start living boldly, and create a positive impact along the way, let's dive in and stir up some mischief together. Now buckle up and let's go. Hello. So today we're diving into the art of breathing with Elissa Davies, a certified breathwork instructor who wants to help everyday folks like you and I find calm amidst the chaos. Elissa's journey took her from soaring the skies as a special mission pilot to exploring the depths of breathwork. She's faced high-pressure situations at 30,000 feet and discovered that the key to staying grounded lies within our very breath. In this episode, Elissa and I chat about how reconnecting with your breath can be a game changer, offering practical tools to manage stress, boost focus, and feel more centered, whether you're navigating the daily grind or just seeking a moment of peace. We also uncover her addiction to type 2 fun and outdoor adventures, the joy and variety to be found in creating a multi-passionate career, and why you don't need a yoga mat or a strict morning routine to be able to implement simple breathing techniques. Well, this week I am joined, I've got to say it right now, I feel the pressure, by Elissa Davies. How was that?
Perfect.
Amazing.
Absolutely nailed it. Yeah. 10 out of 10.
Oh, bless you. So, Elissa, I was aware of you at Camp BC, but we didn't get a chance to really chat. I'd love to ask you right now what your mischief is.
So I've been thinking about this today, and my mischief is to always be pushing my comfort zone. I very rarely allow myself the peace of just doing things that feel easy and comfortable. I have a bit of a habit of searching and seeking out type 2 fun, those experiences that really well and truly scare me sometimes when I'm doing them, but afterwards I just think, oh, that was the best. I want to go and do it again.
What's type 2 fun?
So it's you have 3 types of fun. You have type 1, which is feels fun whilst you're doing it and is like nice to reflect on, but it's not that exciting. It's very comfortable. You have type 2, which feels scary in the moment, but when you reflect on it, feels fun and enjoyable and memorable. And then you have type 3, which feels scary when you do it, feels scary reflecting on it, but it makes one hell of a story. So it's, oh my God. So it's that middle category that I would say I'm a type 2 fun addict when it comes to my hobbies.
Amazing. And so what kind of things do you do then to obtain that fun?
Well, I guess it started when I was in my teens. I was into horse riding and show jumping, and that certainly had like elements that were quite challenging and frightening, especially as I think I was 11 when I started. 11 till 15. But in my early 30s, it's been things like cold water swimming, which I know had a big boom during COVID, but getting into that just before doing sea swims in the middle of winter, which was, in most cases, not very enjoyable until you get out and then you get hit with that post cold water high. And things like surfing, which again, certainly when you're a beginner with a lot of the things that I've done, that could definitely have its moments. But more recently, it's been the motorcycling and specifically off-roading. That's the stuff that I really I enjoy the majority of the time. But I've definitely had some experiences where I just think, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Yeah. It's especially when it's really muddy. But afterwards, I think, oh yeah, do you know what? I learned a lot from that. And climbing is the other one. I've got a bit of a collection of hobbies, but lots of outdoor climbing, which I would say certainly like 90% of the routes that I've done have felt quite terrifying, certainly when we're doing either scrambles or like big multi-pitch where you're climbing up a mountain. Then I've had some moments where I've had a mini meltdown and sort of had to talk myself back into getting up there again, because you have to sort of get to the end to be able to walk back down. So but yeah, it's all good fun.
It's amazing. Like, I mean, I hate climbing. It doesn't. I'm not ashamed to say that I find it really like too far out my comfort zone. But the biking stuff, that's pretty cool
for sure. I mean, climbing. Before I met Ed, I would say I still do have a real fear of heights or falling. And when I met him, I thought he's really into it. He's an instructor. And I thought,
okay,
I'll give it a go. You know, it was a good date that we did. And he just had a really good way of sort of helping me, rather than a lot of people see it as this like all or nothing approach. I think when they're doing stuff, they're like, they have to be
Sorry, I've just got this really bad image now of like you guys on a date and him like, you just like, just put your hand here and just like, you look at there.
No. Definitely not as saucy as that, but he just kind of helped me break it down into these more manageable steps of like, okay, sometimes when we're going after our goals, we just see it as like where we are now and the end result of where we want to be. And we kind of forget that we actually can take all these small steps in the middle. And that's how climbing became this like really enjoyable hobby, activity, like thing I would, love to be able to do more often, from something that I actually thought, climbers are weird people. I'm never going to do that. Like, why would I want to be climbing up a rock? Whereas now I think, I can't wait to go to North Wales next year.
Really?
because it is epic. It's so epic. But I can understand that for some people it is just that bit too far, or it's just something they're not interested in. But I do love it. It is awesome.
I've had a little nose. As you do.
Yeah.
And obviously I know that you are a breathwork specialist, but I was really intrigued by a comment that you made where you said, there were two actually. One of you said you don't need a yoga mat, so you're kind of wanting to dispel the myth that you need these kind of perfect conditions for breathwork.
Yeah.
And the other one that you said was, hi, I'm Elissa and I don't have a morning routine. And I thought, you rebel. There are so many people preaching the benefits of a morning routine. Not only the benefits, but like if you don't have a morning routine, like you're doing life wrong.
You're going to fail. Yeah.
Exactly. So, there's clearly a bit of a rebellious streak in you, I think.
The yoga mat with breathwork, it's something that I got into a few years ago as a result of being very stressed at work and having a degree of burnout and feeling very anxious. And it was this thing that really anchored me and helped me like move through all of that. And so that's what I now do in my work with other people. But I think a lot of people see there are so many barriers to wellness or well-being. And I very much advocate sort of not against those barriers, but giving people the awareness that you don't need to have a membership, access to an app, a yoga mat, even a quiet space. Like that's the great thing with breathwork is ideally, if you can wear some headphones, if you're in a noisy environment, but certainly like you can be in your car driving to work and do a degree of breath control and breath work. When I'm at work in the main office, I'll go and take myself off into a little room and sit on a regular chair, close my eyes and do some breathing for 5 minutes. And that's enough for me to reset myself to then go out into the rest of the day and whatever's going on. So yeah, I think a lot of people see a lot of stuff online that's about, oh, you need to go to this yoga class or you need to go to this well-being event. And I think, yeah, that stuff is great when you've got the opportunity and the time to do that. But for most people, I think particularly at this time of year when everything is very, very busy, that actually having something like that's here within you that you already have access to, that's free, that you can just tap into to give you a moment of grounding is just such a great thing to have and to remind people of. And then, yeah, with the morning routine, I guess, yeah, it's funny. You mentioning that, because I used to be a really big advocate for a morning routine. And yeah, certainly through like things like lockdown and when I was living on my own, having that thing to like get up in the morning, go through this very sort of set practice to really like have me kind of in the zone before going to work. I did find was a really helpful thing to have, but I've found personally, and I'm sure it's the same for other people, that actually I'm part-time now. So I tend to fly for 2 weeks and then I have 2 weeks where I'm off doing the breathwork side of things. And so my days are so different. Like I'll have one day, even in my flying week, where I might be in work at 6:30 and then another one I'm in at 8 and then another one I'm in at 7. And so having a fixed morning routine as you sort of the sort of traditional format, I guess you see people talk about, it just doesn't necessarily work. And I find that I'm one of those people that if I'll say to myself, I'm going to do this every single day. And then it will happen like 2 days in a row and then it stops. And I find that kind of, certainly for me, that all or nothing approach and the lack of flexibility, it just doesn't work. So I tend to sort of work on, okay, I have like, I guess a couple of non-negotiables in my morning routine as I get up and make a cup of tea for Ed and bring it in. And then depending on time, I might go and sit and do some breath work. If not, I'll save that until I have a break at work. But yeah, I just tend to sort of have a few things. I'm like, okay, as long as I do this today, that's fine. You know, if it all fits into the morning, awesome. Because I think morning routines do have a lot of power for how they set you up mentally and physically. But also, you know, if you've got kids, a few people that I work with have kids, so they're like, as soon as they're up, they're like straight into that. And actually their morning doesn't begin until 9 o'clock where they sit down at their desk. So, you know, to say to someone like that, oh, you have to get up half an hour earlier. Like I would never tell someone to sacrifice their sleep, because that is the most important thing before everything else.
No, I think that's a really good point about having the non-negotiables, and rather than saying it has to happen at this time every single day, which I'm sure can really work for some people. But if that's not you and that doesn't suit your lifestyle, it's a lot easier on yourself to be able to say, as long as these things happen during the day, or even during the week, I must, you know, dedicate a little bit of time to this thing. Then that can still kind of, you know, set you up for the kind of day or the kind of week that you want to have.
Yeah, it's just finding those, like the things. Certainly, I mean, obviously my non-negotiable is breath work, but when I talk to clients about, okay, how can you feed breathwork into your day, we talk about creating these air pockets of calm. So when you're in those like transitional moments in your day, whether it's you're about to go for lunch, having been at your desk, or you've come back from a walk, or you're finishing work at the end of the day and you're about to close your laptop screen before you then go and pick up the kids. It's like using those transitional moments to sit and do the thing, whether it's breath work or a bit of journaling or just some like just sitting in stillness for a few minutes, you know, or going for a walk, whatever it is, using that time to create the space, rather than this, it has to be, I need to allow myself like 30 minutes to do all this stuff in the morning, because sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah. So how did you get into the breath work? Because I can see that you're super passionate about it.
So it's kind of giving you some background on my career. So I became a pilot when I was 22, a commercial pilot when I was 22. And I've been in the same company for 13 and a half years now, which it still kind of blows my mind. But it's a very, can be quite a high pressure job. It's not, we don't fly passengers. We do training with the military. So it is subtly different, but it just requires a lot of thinking, a lot of critical decision making. And for years, I kind of just, I guess, ticked along as many people do. And then I had a big sort of life shake-up after I turned 30, which led to me relocating to the South Coast, and sort of went through this period of, I guess, rediscovering myself. But also that was just before lockdown happened. So I kind of went through, I guess, work was, I think I'd sort of been building to this breaking point, I suppose. But COVID kind of gave me this like breather, where everything was just, we were still flying, but not as often. And then it was coming back from that. I had a period of 3 or 4 months towards sort of from September through to December that was just really busy with flying, going overseas a lot, which is something we do, but not as often as I was doing at this time. I think I'd had like 6 weeks away over a 3-month period, and was feeling homesick and just really anxious. And up till this point, I'd sort of never thought of myself as, always been very sort of chilled out and easygoing. But just got to Christmas and thought, I just can't deal with this anymore. And it was at that point that I then discovered this Breathwork app. And up till then, I'd tried mindfulness, but found it very difficult. I mean, the whole point of it is it's a focus practice, and it is a practice. It's not something that you know how to do straight away, but it just didn't really like connect with me on a deeper level. I just didn't sort of find any enjoyment from doing it. And then I started using this Breathwork app and was like, oh my God, how have I only just discovered this stuff?
Wow.
It really I just felt so physically connected to myself, like in my core, and so grounded. And it was like the one thing where I could just as soon as I started listening to the guidance and the music, it was like someone just cranked the volume down on my thoughts. Because I find I have a very busy mind, and this was just, and I think just having, and this is what I noticed when I teach people for the first time, is just how quickly you feel the physical benefits and the mental benefits too. But from doing a breathing practice, within 30 seconds, you can start to change your mental state. So it's powerful stuff, and it's so simple as well. It was. I got into that. I was practicing probably 3 or 4 times a day, so maybe a little bit to the point of obsession, but I found it just made me feel like myself again. And then just after doing, I don't know if it's about a year or so after doing that, having a regular practice and reading books about it and starting to get a bit more curious about the science behind breath work and that kind of stuff, that I then had an opportunity to go and do teacher training with a French guy who's based in London. And again, that was just a really fun, enjoyable experience, learning a lot more than I actually sort of use day to day, but just exploring different techniques and styles and approaches, and the sort of limitless benefits and applications of it. And that's what then shifted me into sort of looking at, okay, how can I give this to other people? Because I've found it such a life-changing, beneficial tool to have, that I want to be able to offer that to other people as well.
In case you haven't heard, you can now purchase Mischief Movement merch. It's all done through T-Mill, a UK print-on-demand platform offering global delivery, organic cotton, and production powered by renewable energy. Not only can you now tell everyone you are a true mischief maker, but if you feel inspired to create your own t-shirts, stickers, or mugs, you could also give T-Mill a try, because it's a great way to experiment your ideas and take fast action with low risk. You'll find the links in the show notes, so write yourself a little reminder for later, and let's get back to the episode. That's incredible. And have you managed that? Have you found ways to then be able to share that knowledge with people and help them sort of achieve some kind of transformation through breathwork?
Yeah, so, Camp VC, which is where we met, was the first place I went to do like an in-person sort of set of workshops. So up till that point, I used to be part of a women's cold water swimming group with a friend, and would, before we got in the sea, we would sit and guide through like five minutes of breath work. So that was kind of the very first point. But going to Camp VC and running these workshops to help people learn different techniques that they could apply in the sort of the theme of facing your fears and helping you like deal with pressure and things like that, which was an amazing experience to be able to teach people face to face and see people walk away with something that they might never come back to again, but even if there's just a few, that it makes a difference. It was worthwhile. But otherwise mainly working in the corporate space, so running workshops with businesses to help them give their staff something that's very practical and tangible and that they can use, whether it's just they're getting 60 minutes of time for themselves to listen to me, guide them through breath work, or the stuff that goes beyond that they can then take out into their day-to-day experiences, just to give people those tools so that they can create a little out of office moment without actually having to go out of office or, waiting for that elusive holiday to come along.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't feel like I can even have you on without asking you, if there's just one breathing technique that people could learn.
The simplest thing to do is to just follow your breath. So taking a moment to either close your eyes or not, and just follow the breath as it comes in through your nose, down into your lungs and back again. But in terms of the one technique, which is my favorite technique, and probably the one most people have heard of, is box breathing. So you're just working on, it's a box in that you're taking an inhale, you're holding at the top, you're taking an exhale and then holding at the bottom. So normally you would breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, and then hold it for a count of 4. And doing that practice for ideally 5 minutes, but to be honest, even if you're just doing it for 2 minutes, it's really good at helping like fully balance your nervous system between the fight or flight side and the rest and relax, and just creating a real sense of control and focus between the holds. It's the sort of the universal one that I teach pretty much every single person. I don't think there's anyone I wouldn't teach it to, because it's so effective. Whether you're looking to get focus before you go into something, or whether you're feeling really overwhelmed, it can help you on both sides of that spectrum. So box breathing. And I can send you, I've got a little free download recording for people to have a practice if you don't want to sort of self-guide. But
brilliant. I can maybe link that in the show notes for you.
Yeah, sure.
Amazing. So when was the last time that you used that technique or another technique?
Ooh.
I know you just told me that you do breathwork every day, but I mean,
yeah. Do you know
not as a practice, but more as I feel really stressed or really anxious right now, and I need it.
Oh, I'm trying to think back to. I feel like I've had such a busy week. I definitely did some when I was heading to go and do something on Thursday to do another talk that I was feeling not anxious for, but just I was on the train, and traveling I always find quite hectic. And so, yeah, just whilst I was on my way up from Bournemouth to Leeds, I just took 5 minutes to close my eyes and just go through some box breathing to help, even though I was kind of feeling pretty okay, and certainly not in a state of like overwhelm or anything like that, but just creating a pause and some space and silence in my mind just for a few minutes. And it's just such a nice feeling afterwards. And certainly before bed, it's definitely a thing I do regularly again, because it just helps kind of tell my mind it's time to wind down for the evening, so I can chill out again.
It's interesting what you were saying about the kind of well-being space feeling a bit sort of, I would say sometimes it feels a bit intimidating. Like there's all these people with all these techniques and it feels a bit fancy at times. I can understand why for some people that they may be a bit skeptical or apprehensive about entering into, well, anything really. But what would you say to somebody who's like, breath work, what could that actually do for me?
You've got to try it. I think, I can totally understand, like, there's so much rhetoric out there about all these weird and wild and wonderful things that you can do with your well-being, that it can be quite hard to know who to trust and what to trust. But with breath work, like, there is such a clear impact and influence between your breathing patterns and how that affects you on a physical level with your nervous system, your parasympathetic and your sympathetic, that just from, even if you sort of sit and take a moment to think about, okay, when I was feeling really calm, what was my breathing like? When I was feeling really anxious or something really scary had just happened to me, what was my breathing like? And you'll notice, even between those 2 points, that in one case your breathing would have been very slow and deep, and in the other it would have been very fast and shallow. And that's the way your breathing and your nervous system interact with each other. So I would say just try 1 minute of some kind of breath control, breath work, whether it is a particular technique like box breathing, or just as simple as breathing in for a count of 4 or 5 and breathing out for a count of 4 or 5, and just taking a brief moment at the start and the end to notice how you feel.
Yeah.
Because it, like, the feeling and the impact, the benefits that certainly I find, and from the people I've worked with, it's so tangible that it's very hard to be skeptical with it. But I can understand there are certain techniques, and there's a style called conscious connected breathing, which is where you're doing a form of sighing for a prolonged period of time, that it does have a very tangible effect on your body, and you'll get something called tetany, which is like pins and needles in your fingers. But that's more of like people tend to use that as a kind of like emotional release technique to help with emotional release, whereas the stuff I work on is more something you would use in a short space of time, rather than, say, like lying down for half an hour. So yeah, I think, as with all these things, it's about giving it a go and then finding what works for you, because there are certain styles that I don't mind, but I'm like, nah, I'm not that bothered about it, but I know I can get the same effect with a different technique that actually I enjoy using more. So yeah, but I think being open-minded and giving it a go, and if you are curious, then educating yourself. There's some really interesting books out there, and certainly podcasts, and even going to you can go to, I don't host sort of group breathwork classes, but there are people that do, to just just notice how it works is the sort of my advice. really.
Yeah. And thinking about the fact that you've got this flying career, you've got the breathwork, you do climbing, you're doing this off-road motorbiking as well. Like, how are you finding it, being able to carve out the time to do all those things? Is it difficult? Is it easy? Are you being intentional about it? How's it all working out?
Well, I would say it kind of goes through phases. It's got easier. So I went part-time. I'm just coming up to 2 years now. So going from 100% flying to 50% so that I could focus more time on myself, the things that I enjoy, and my business as part of that. So I know that's obviously that is a very privileged thing to be able to have that time to open up. But I think for me, because those things, the things like the breathwork and the climbing and the motorbikes, they're such an important part of what makes me feel content, and fun is such a core value for me that I find it quite easy to prioritize those things, because that is what makes me, if I notice that I'm maybe not feeling great, I'll have a reflection on, okay, how much fun have I actually had recently? And if I look at it and go, oh, not that much, I'm like, oh, that's why. And because that's just the way my sort of brain and body works, is I need to have that time in my diary. But it comes with practice, I think, and a bit of discipline and boundaries to get it to all fit in together. Because, I mean, certainly if I've been working from home doing breathwork-based business stuff, I have found myself on the odd occasion realizing at the end of the day that I haven't actually been outside, and I'm like, oh my God. Which is, I would never advocate that for anyone.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you just genuinely really love something, isn't it? You just kind of get sucked in.
You do, yeah. So I have to consciously set reminders on my phone to force myself to get up and go outside, because I know that I feel, even though I could do a whole day sitting down and feel fine, but if I was to do that for 6 days or whatever in a row, I wouldn't. So I know that taking the time out to go and get some fresh air and stuff like that, it's definitely worthwhile having. But I think with all these things, it's you learn as you go whether you'll get, how that balance is, whether you've maybe, I mean, I've definitely had weeks where I've probably prioritized the fun a bit too much over other things. And I'm like, okay, can't have fun all the time. I know, I wish I could, but I wish I could ride motorbikes off-road every single day. But I've got to earn money at the same time. So
of course.
Always a work in progress.
Yeah, but no, it's so lovely to hear that you have at least found a way to be able to do all of those things, because I think that's where a lot of people fall down. It's that sense of, well, I would love to do this, but I just don't have the time, and that's it, and so I can't do it. And I feel really sad about that.
Yeah, I think it's people get, we were talking about earlier, I think people, like you were saying, they put themselves into this box and they create these restrictions on themselves based on a set of rules that maybe they got from parents or educators or their friends, that it's like, oh, well, I have to, because I started this thing, I have to stay in this thing. And I was that person, like when I got into my career of flying straight out of school. And I remember when I moved down to the South Coast and when I was thinking about going part-time, even though part of it was for my mental health, I remember having a conversation with my parents and getting really upset because I felt like I was going to be disappointing them by going 50%, because they'd supported me so much. And I know they were so proud of me and what I was doing. And they just said to me, they were like, Elissa, we just want you to be happy. And, taking that step to go for flexible working, to put my time and energy and to put myself out there, teaching breathwork, like at the time felt super scary. And I was like, I know I've got the support of my flying job to help me out financially, but certainly like in the 6 to 12 months leading up to it, I was like, oh God, this feels scary. Am I, is this the right decision? Am I going to change my mind in 6 months' time? Am I going to find it really hard? And you just get to that point where you just have to go for it and trust that you'll figure stuff out as you go, and that you can, I think that's something I'd sort of credit myself with as a skill, is if I put my mind to something and say I'm going to do it, then it happens.
Yeah.
And it sometimes the timeline varies, but generally it's like, we're off, let's go, the bus is leaving, are you coming with me? And I think that definitely helps, when it comes to making big changes. I just sort of trust that I'm like, okay, this is where we're going, we'll work it out. If we need to change the plan, we'll change the plan, but this is, I'm going to give this a go, because if I don't, who knows?
I love that, because you made a really good point there. How often do we hold ourselves back? Not even because of our own fear. It's more in the stories that we tell ourselves about disappointing other people, or that we've already invested so much money in this other career. How could we possibly let that go? But I think there comes a point where you have to say, is this genuinely making me happy? And what I love about, what you've done is you haven't taken the leap and left yourself nothing. You've done it carefully. And that's not to say that you don't like flying. It's just to say, I like flying and I also like this too, and that's okay. So I'm not even going to ask you whether you want to continue with one or the other, because as far as I'm concerned, we can have these multi-skilled careers and lives, and they can all sort of blend together, and that's absolutely fine. And I think actually we're probably going to see more and more of that happening as we let go of this older style of living where it's one job for life.
I think there's this real, and I see this in some people of certain generations that you talk to, that there's this expectation that you have to like get into your career in your early 20s, and that's the thing you do for the next 40 years. Retirement age is only getting older, and I really think when you subscribe to that view, you are limiting yourself, and yes, it does give you a degree of comfort knowing you've always got this thing. You the likelihood is you'll be very, very good at what you do by the time you're in your as you get towards retirement. But actually you're sort of cutting off all these other options of there was a book I read when I was in a book club a couple of years ago called the multi-hyphen method.
Yes.
And which I just thought was something I'd never considered, because I always thought, I'm going to be a career pilot, like this is me for life. And then suddenly it was like, actually I don't have to be, we talked quite a bit about this, like all or nothing. I don't have to quit my job and move to Bali and become a breathwork teacher. I can work part-time and teach part-time and still have time to do the other stuff. I think it's just about looking at your own life as an individual and deciding like, what are the building blocks that are going to work for you? And I've got a mortgage, so taking, like, I'm in a certain position where there are certain financial risks I can't take, and personally I wouldn't want to take them either. So I've adjusted my approach to work for me, whereas for other people they might be in a position where they can quit everything and go and live in a van and travel or move overseas. And there might be someone else who actually they need to stay full time, but they're going to carve out an hour here or there in the evenings to sort of move into something that they're interested in. I think it's just about finding an approach that works for you and coming back to your own like personal values, and rather than getting sort of distracted by what everyone else is doing. But it is hard. It's when people say to you like, you can quit your job and work remotely and not have to worry about all these things. You're like, but maybe I can't. That's just a step too far for me,
Yeah, totally. And I think that's such an important point to raise. It's what works for us at the end of the day, and there isn't one model.
No.
And when you can start to approach life with that sense of, it has to work for me in terms of earning the money, but balancing that with having the fun.
Yeah.
think if you're willing to go there, it's a total game changer. It changes your life. But I know that for a lot of people, it's a really scary thing to do. But I love that one of your values is fun, because it's one of mine as well. What are your other values?
Oh, I mean, I find they've definitely changed over the last few years. I found that fun, adventure, they're kind of very core things, but family has definitely become something that I've always lived quite far from my family with work, but in the last few years, although they're thinking about moving again now, but my parents are only a couple of roads away, and so it's nice to spend more time with them and with Ed's family as well. That's become a big part of it. But yeah, it's I like to keep it quite simple, to not overcomplicate things. But yeah, definitely fun always, and family. Yeah, those are the two really that just like anchor me the most, I think.
I love that. I have absolutely loved chatting to you about all things breathwork and creating a life that really lights you up. But before I wrap up, what do you think would be your one sort of takeaway or one message that you would love to leave the listeners with, if you could only leave them with one sort of thought?
I think because I'm such a comfort zone pusher, I would say try and do something that feels a little bit uncomfortable. I think it's very easy to stay within the zone of the known. And actually, there can be some very exciting things that happen when you just explore. You know, I'm not saying go into the full-on far end of the comfort zone where where you're sort of pushing from into your place of panic. But yeah, just trying something new or doing something that maybe you've been telling yourself that you couldn't do, and just saying, okay, well, why am I saying these things to myself? Like, what is the barrier there? And maybe I can just move past that and give it a go and see what happens, rather than kind of telling myself before I've even started that I can't do this thing. But yeah, just I guess two things. Yeah, push your comfort zone just a little bit, just see what happens, and have more fun. Because
yes, absolutely advocate the fun.
Yeah, because it's just so important. I feel like life can get very serious, and actually just taking a moment to go and run into the sea, or to go out into the woods and have a little play, you know, just bringing in more fun, really, because that's what makes us happy and brings us into the present moment, which is always a good place to
Have
be.
you got any fun things lined up for 2025?
Ooh, yes. I'm going to Adventure Bike Rider Festival, which is up at Ragley Hall, if you know. It's
my neck of the woods, Warwickshire.
Yeah. And so I went for the first time this year. It's a huge, I think they have like 15,000 people. It's a massive off-road adventure bike festival. And they have a 40-kilometre off-road trail that you can go on, which I did this year, but I was super nervous. And you get a lot of men on big adventure bikes. Feels very intimidating. And I'd only had my license for my big license for about 4 months, but I'm going back next June. Yeah, I'm not teaching there, unfortunately, but I will be riding. So that's what I'm looking forward to, because it's just going to be, I've got 4 days there, and I'm just going to absolutely rinse the off-road trail. And I'm hoping by that point, I'm not hoping, I know, I'll be much more confident, because I've been practicing, and yeah, I know by that point I'll feel a lot more sort of comfortable and happy. You know, if people want to blast past me, that's fine. But yeah, that is my highlight, I think, at the moment. But yeah, some other exciting, there'll definitely be some climbing trips, maybe going to Spain for a bit of climbing. So climbing and bikes, they're the two things.
Do you think you're going to be doing any of the festivals next year?
I don't know. It's my boyfriend's 40th next year, so we want to focus our time. We're definitely doing that festival, but we want to focus our time on maybe going to the Pyrenees or the Alps or something on the bikes. So I think it just depends on the timing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'd love to go and teach at some festivals. I need to have a bit of a sift through to see the ones that sort of align with what I want to do the most. But yeah, always happy to take recommendations. If there's ones you're like, you must do this.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah, 2025 I feel like it's going to be an exciting year. Lots of adventure planned.
Fantastic.
Sure.
I love to hear about like adventure plans and stuff.
Yeah.
So where can people find out more about you and your breathwork?
So LinkedIn is my number one place. If you search my name, or if it's in the podcast notes, that's where I like to hang out, because I just find it's a nice chilled out place to be. So yeah, LinkedIn, feel free to drop me a follow or a connection and we can chat. I've got a website, and then I am on Instagram, but I find, I tend to kind of dip in and out there just because I have to really be precious about where I spend my time, and it's a very easy place to get lost. So yeah, but I am there. So you might not see very much activity, but I'm sort of lingering in the background. So
you're a lurker.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I used to be a LinkedIn lurker, but now I'm an Instagram lurker. Yeah.
Oh, Elissa, it's been amazing. Thank you so much. And
likewise.
I hope I get to catch up with you in 2025 at some event or another. So.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, I'm in Bournemouth, but yeah, let me know where you're going to be, and I'm sure we can find a little get together of some kind. But
thank you.
Exciting. No, thanks for having me. It's been great.
So just before we go, here is my little rebellious roundup of the main points. Number 1, did you know there are 3 types of fun? Type 1 is enjoyable and comfortable whilst doing it, but not that exciting. Type 2 is scary in the moment, but fun and memorable reflecting back on it. And type 3 is scary at the time and still scary when you look back on it, but it does make for a great story. Number 2, you don't have to approach life with an all or nothing approach. Break the big goals into smaller steps that feel manageable. 3, you don't have to have a yoga mat or absolute silence to do breath work. It's more about intentionally creating a pause in your day or using those transitional moments between tasks. So don't wait for the perfect conditions to start. You can even try it in your car. 4, rather than stress yourself over creating the perfect morning routine, an alternative approach could be to have a few non-negotiables. For example, incorporating some movement, weekly meditations, or daily journaling. You decide what will work for you and then decide how to integrate those things into your day, week, or month. 5, you may have tried breathwork or mindfulness or meditation in the past and felt like it didn't work, but there are lots of styles, new apps and techniques to experiment with, so don't be afraid to try again and do it differently. 6, box breathing can really help you when you want to regulate your nervous system. Remember, as little as 5 minutes can help to diffuse stress and overwhelm, and the technique is to breathe in for a count of 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4, and hold for 4, and then repeat for as long as you need. 7, if you notice you're not feeling your usual self, ask yourself if you've been making time for the things, people, and places that you find fun, because unless we prioritize fun, it does tend to slip off the to-do list. 8, trust that if you want to get somewhere, achieve something, or make changes in your life, you can figure it out. Everyone is figuring out life as they go along, and you are just as capable as the next person, so trust yourself. Number 9, it's okay to make adjustments to your life or career to accommodate alternative ideas or incorporate your passions. You could explore going part-time or pivoting completely, but if you feel the nudge to try doing things differently, go for it. You have the power to choose your career path. And number 10, try to leave the zone of the known. I've never heard it put like that before, but I love it. Comfort zones are great for building confidence and skills, but if you stretch yourself, that's where you'll experience more growth. That's a wrap on another episode of the Mischief Movement podcast. If today's content stirred something in you, let's keep in touch on Instagram or connect with me on LinkedIn. You can even click the link in the show notes to sign up to my Mischief Mail newsletter, where you'll get exclusive insights on upcoming episodes and your chance to submit questions to future guests. But shh, don't tell anyone, it's our secret. For more info on ways to work with me and some fun free resources, check out the website themischiefmovement.com. Until next time, stay bold, stay rebellious, and of course, keep making mischief.